Yeah, their book is very wise, and it talks about the whole patient approach. It does have the three Ps: people, place, and purpose, and it goes into things that have been constructive. That and what's good too is you're honest. You're like initially you were like that works, and then you're like yeah, it does work. So it's things like supportive grandmas where they're
Yeah.
like reaching out
The
to folks.
friendship bench. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the friendship bench. I was like, that works. And you talk about how the treatment is a small fraction of the problem, even though even that's not happening all the time, obviously, and that there are all of these things around the patient, the environment, their ability to feel like there's a reason to wake up in the morning, and like get out
Hmm.
and do things,
Yeah.
and when you think about it, it's like, oh, that seems pretty obvious, but then that's not the way our sick care system approaches things. Like you say they go in and be like, oh, you got acute symptoms. Let me try and zap those symptoms, and then you like put them back into whatever the heck environment and hope for the best. And shockers, it's not very effective.
Yeah, I was at a meeting yesterday where somebody said, when I said we don't have a mental health care system, he said, of course we have a system. We have exactly a system. And it's not broken. He said it works exactly the way it was set up to work, which is to be totally dysfunctional. It's actually, it's incentivizing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
And I think that's right. I think we could fix this simply by starting to move the money towards what the things we want. The other thing, you mentioned this before, Andrew, and it's often not clear to people who aren't directly involved in this field, but if you have a loved one with severe mental illness, they're not looking for care often. They may not even think that they're sick. They may deny being ill. And that's such a huge challenge because it throws you into this problem that I write about in the book of involuntary treatment. And, in America, we don't like to talk about this, but for someone who has dementia, or sometimes for young children who are too young to be able to choose that they actually need to have blood drawn to get a diagnosis, or for someone with psychosis who says, "Look, I'm telling you, there really are aliens who are tracking my brainwaves, and you just can't hear them, but I can, and so I'm right and you're wrong." Those are people who may need to be treated in spite of their wishes. And we've been very loath to do that. And it's one of the reasons why in California we have so many people living under bridges and eating out of dumpsters, because we don't want to confront them and say, "Look, you're sick, and you need to be." The compassionate thing here is to help you, even though you may not want the help. What we're doing is allowing people to die with their rights on, and the governor has finally said maybe that's not the most compassionate thing. Maybe we need to actually mandate treatment. And we also need to mandate that the counties provide the treatment for people who may not be knocking on their door, but who are living under their bridges.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's compassionate just to let someone die under the bridge. I don't think it's compassionate to be stepping over people who are clearly in need of help, as is happening in a lot of places. I think it's just, I mean, you described as a reluctance to confront. There are various failures, really, institutional failures, and then people suffer as a result, including people who could use some help. And your book really makes a very powerful case. Like, look, we don't allow this for diabetes or any other type of illness. Like, what the heck? Why are we treating this so differently?
Yeah, I think the reason we do is we confuse illness and identity. And it's an easy mistake to make, as I write about in the book. These are people who have made that mistake for themselves. They may think that schizophrenia is who they are. And what we're doing here when we allow someone to stay under the bridge is we're listening to their illness and not paying attention to their
Wow.
identity. And
Yeah.
and maybe only 2% of that person is the part that's going to recover. But it's still that 2% that you've got to focus on, the part of that person that is not ill. And it's interesting. I mean, for the people who do this and who spend the time trying to help those under a bridge someplace. And here, where I live in the Bay Area, we have thousands and thousands of people in this situation. Um, what you learn is they don't really want to be living this way. This isn't a choice. This isn't what they want to do. They're frightened, and they're frightened because of the voices, and they're frightened to go someplace where they won't. They don't know what's going to happen to them, and so it's kind of unthinkable that we have allowed their illness to become the part of them that we are listening to, instead of
Wow.
understanding that there's a person behind that illness who's ultimately going to triumph if they get the right care, but who just doesn't have the strength to do it by themselves. And so it does come down to compassion and thinking about what is the most compassionate issue. But I bring this up, and I think that it's important to talk about it in the book, because even though, in this conversation we're focused on mental illness, pretty quickly you realize, wow, this is at the center of so many other things. This is at the center of homelessness, of crowding of the jails, of problems in schools, of just a huge number of issues. I was with some folks yesterday from the child welfare system. It's just stunning how 35% of the kids in the child welfare system are not going to graduate from high school.
Oh, no.
Why is that? A lot of them have untreated mental illness that just don't end up getting the services they need. So it's really, I think, for so many of the issues we care about, this has been the piece that we just haven't really addressed and haven't wanted to deal with, but we're going to have to. I call this, in the book, I call it our Jim Crow moment, because these are our untouchables in a way. They're our lowest caste. They've been neglected entirely, and yet it's not who we are, or maybe it is who we are, but it's not who we want to be. And I think it's, what I'm arguing is that we could redefine the nation over how we help those who are suffering the most and who have the greatest needs.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe, and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.